Brooklands, the birthplace of motor racing.
The history of Brooklands is a proud record of speed giant.
A powerhouse of British engineering. And witness to some of the world's most extraordinary collections of historic cars.
Sounds great. Bit of fun, isn't it?
Aircraft.
Happy with that.
It's looking good.
Buses.
It's worked!
And motorbikes.
That sounds good, huh?
With their roots embedded in this incredible site.
Yes!
We follow the army of staff, volunteers and enthusiasts.
Did you see that go?
Working day in and day out.
I was hoping the fairies might have fixed it.
To make sure these crown jewels of transport history are ready to fly, race and drive another day.
I'll race you back to the clubhouse.
Will, give me a chance to get started.
Not a chance.
Today at the museum, it's all about groundbreaking firsts. Outside the Jackson shed,
Christ, it's not light, is it?
a racing demon from the first ever British Grand Prix gets set to play the leading role in an important anniversary event.
He only likes to go fast. This car does not like going slowly. Hello.
But will the weather wave the checkered flag before it's even begun?
There's a fair quantity coming down today.
By the finishing straight, Brooklands' first set of wings prepares for its big reopening.
It's almost equivalent for a Britain as the Wright brothers out at Kitty Hawk.
And over at the ERA shed,
he does all the work and I do all the observation.
a first-generation star bike and cult classic gets some TLC. In time for a very special visitor.
Takes a lot to get me emotional, but that certainly does.
Take this round by the race bays, I think.
Brooklands has an amazing collection of pre-war cars, most of which were once worked on and raced around the site's punishing track. And in the Jackson shed, a very special part of the collection shows the startling progression of Grand Prix cars through the century, from the cutting edge to the very earliest.
Oh, that looks a bit painful.
The problem is that currently the display has all the right cars,
Well, hang on, there's no one steering.
but not necessarily in the right order.
It's just flat tyres, isn't it?
Something that Roger and the motoring team volunteers are putting right.
We thought it'd be nice is to have them all in chronological order. So we've got them going from the oldest cars going up through to the end. So there's more of a logical order in that order. Right, the only thing is you can't get out, but apart from that, it's fine.
It's hard work when he's on full lock, isn't it?
With limited room and priceless cars, it's like a very expensive game of Tetris.
Well, you can't get much closer than that. Mission accomplished.
It's all part of the preparations for a very important date in the museum's diary that Engagement and Heritage Director Alex Patterson is overseeing.
Today we are getting ready for our next event this weekend, which is the Brooklands Festival. And this one is going to be particularly special this year because it's the 95th anniversary of the first ever British Grand Prix held here at Brooklands in 1926. It's all high-tech here, Bing.
Alex is prepping the track, ready for a few star Grand Prix guests that are going to be racing up the finishing straight, showing off what made them best in class.
Early motoring competitions were developed by the American philanthropist Gordon Bennett between 1900 and 1905. And then the French really got hold of it and started effectively street racing in 1906. Britain didn't have a race at the time, and it wasn't until 1926 that Britain got its first Grand Prix, and it ended up here at Brooklands because it was the only motor racing circuit in the country to be able to have such a competition. Without Brooklands, there wouldn't have been a British Grand Prix in 1926.
Incredibly, one of the cars which competed in the first Grand Prix lives right here at Brooklands, the supercharged Halford Special. It's on loan to the museum from Ian Chain's family. Ian's at the museum to make sure it's race ready for the anniversary. And he's drafted in volunteer and master engineer Colin Shaw to help.
Need to switch the ignition on.
The car hasn't been driven in nearly 2 years, but ever the optimists, Ian and Colin are hoping that with just a little basic love...
No, just tap water.
Fuel...
That's the ignition.
And attention, it'll fire up first time.
There's the accelerator pedal here. And I should be holding that while Colin is whirling it round.
With no electric starter motor, the engine on the Halford has to be cranked manually.
Aren't you going to whirl it round?
No, I'm not. I've got to save myself, Colin, right?
And that's no job for the faint-hearted.
Ready?
Yep. No, nothing there, is there?
Time for Plan B.
We may be able to push start it, because once you push start it, you can then get it running.
Looks like Ian and Colin have a bigger job on their hands than they were hoping for. The Halford is due to be the star of the show at the 95th anniversary.
Anybody who wants to push is welcome.
But right now, they're not sure it'll even get off the grid.
Push. Right this side.
Nearly all of the cars, planes and bikes on display at the museum are machines at the top of their game. But there are some that were so successful they've gone on to influence a new generation.
Does that line up to the back?
Today, old friends and motorbike volunteers, Fred Wade and Bill Whiteley, are giving one of these rare trailblazers a once-over. It's a spot-on replica of a very famous Brooklands bike indeed. The 1937 BSA Empire Star.
In those days, when someone did a lap of over 100 miles an hour of the circuit, the British Motorcycle Racing Club awarded them a gold star.
Motorcycle legend and Isle of Man TT winner, Wal Handley, raced it on the track here in 1937.
He obtained 107 miles an hour on his first race. He won the gold star, so it was quite an achievement.
Handley's win at Brooklands inspired the Empire Star's maker, BSA, to build a new bike called the Gold Star. It went on to become a true classic.
It started a dynasty of gold stars that lasted up until the mid-60s. In the second race, he collided with another bike, and the original bike was completely destroyed. So this is a very, very faithful reproduction of the original.
And the skilled hands that pieced it together belong to retired surgeon George Wander.
So this bike has been my baby. I built it from pretty much from scratch. So I gathered together a load of Empire Star parts. Using those parts, I put the bike together. It took me 2 or 3 years to build the bike, and using an original photograph of Walter Handley on the bike, I managed, I believe, to build something that's as close to the original as possible. Unfortunately, over the last year or two, I've developed an illness which means that it's going to limit the amount of riding that I'm able to do.
With their own passion for Gold Star bikes, whilst this model has been with the museum, Fred and Bill have been lovingly looking after it.
Well, the last time I rode this, Bill, the front forks were clonking, and I think there's a bit of play in the headstock bearings.
Okay.
So if we can adjust it. If you jump on,
Right.
take the weight off the front wheel. See that? There's a hell of a lot of play in there. Hell of a lot. I'm just tightening up the forks. There's a bearing at the top and a bearing at the bottom, and over a period of time they wear and it gets loose. So I'm just adjusting that to tighten up the front forks.
Oh, that's much better, Fred.
Yeah, that's good.
That's much better. I shall be able to go like a rocket.
The Empire Star was designed for speed, not comfort. So Fred has to do some upgrades for everyday use.
I'm putting an extra footrest on so I can actually change gear with my foot on the footrest. Back in the day, they wanted to get as streamlined as they could, so they would change up all the way up into top gear and go around the outer circuit, and that's the only time they would change gear. When we use it, of course, we've got to change gear a bit more often because we can't go as fast as that.
And now for the fiddliest job. The engine needs to be checked for timing. The amount of power the bike has on startup is determined by the exact position of the piston at the precise moment the spark plug ignites.
So what we're going to do is check the ignition timing. The timing is quite crucial to the power output of the engine. I'm taking the cap off the magneto to expose the points. We get the piston up to top dead center, so it's right on its maximum. So put a cigarette paper between the points. Put the timing disc on, get it in a position. And I've got that dead upright. So that's the timing disc. That gives me 39 degrees between those two marks. So now that's on top dead center. And if I roll it back, the point should be just opening. So we have that cigarette paper in there, and we can just about pull the cigarette paper out. Well, that's perfect. That's set exactly at 39 degrees. So it's at the optimum point. So we can put it back together.
Another genius hack for you budding engineers. With such an illustrious heritage, it's vital the bike is looked after so it can be enjoyed and marvelled at by the generations to come.
Guess we ought to make sure it starts okay.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, okay. Should we do that then?
Yeah, I'll get the petrol.
I've decided now that I'd rather donate the bike while I'm still around and hopefully have a few more years of just being able to see it being run and still be involved in its running without the responsibility of being the owner.
Such a generous offer has really touched Fred and the team. George is coming in to see it next week, and they want to put on a show with his beloved bike.
That sounds good.
To demonstrate just how much it's appreciated.
Yeah, that's great. I'm pleased with that. The bike's running well. It's all ready for George when he comes next week. And we've got a little surprise for him.
I think it's excellent. I think it'll everybody will be happy with that.
Job done.
We're a great team. He does all the work and I do all the observation.
Working at the museum can be high-octane, nail-biting, and occasionally even a little bit glamorous. But the dedicated teams that work here are all united in one mission: to protect and preserve the amazing sights, sounds and vehicles of Brooklands in its heyday.
Hi, Andrew.
Morning, Phil. Another task for you.
Yeah.
And some take this preservation to extraordinary heights.
I had to get the little trusty toothbrush out just to get into those bits.
For the past 4 years, Phil Dimes has been painstakingly cleaning the museum's Wellington bomber.
This one is my second toothbrush.
It's been a proper labour of love.
It never gets to me that it's a tedious job.
So when collections manager Andrew Lewis needed help busting the dust from an even earlier set of wings, he knew who to call.
How long has she been closed up?
So it's been about 18 months.
This shed is a replica of the one built in 1907 by Sir Elliot Verdon Roe, an early pioneer pilot and aircraft designer.
We've got the dusters, we've got the vacuums.
Yeah, I think we've got all the kit ready to go.
It houses a very special plane built by Roe called the Roe 1 biplane.
But it's definitely dusty in here.
Yeah.
The plane's looking in good condition, isn't it?
Pretty good, really, when you think about it.
In 1907, he won £75 in a competition set by the Daily Mail to build and fly a glider. In true innovator style, he used his winnings to build a full-size flying machine.
So we'll give it a nice brush up and hoover around.
Yeah.
And then we'll do the aircraft.
Yeah.
And last job will be to do the floor.
Ever the pioneer, Sir Elliot Roe was keen to take advantage of a major development at the site.
Around 1907, the circuit was built, but within a year or two, 1908, the early aviators had come along, And they'd said, well, can we build an airstrip within the actual circuit and start to try to fly our planes?
This is a replica of A.V. Rowe's first aeroplane. This is a static replica, it's never flown. So this aircraft really represents the beginning of aviation at Brooklands. Prize money was really the best way to sort of fund progress. If your design was successful and we got some money, which most people then ploughed straight back into designing the next version. The aviators were completely fearless, so they had no idea if these designs were going to work at all.
Rowe's first design wasn't to be. He trialled his plane on the site's finishing straight, but it was destroyed by a strong gust of wind after it managed just a few hops from the ground.
I'll just finish these windowsills, Andrew, because they're going to bring a lot of dust down onto the floor.
Yeah, basically that would just get the hoover on it.
Despite the Rowe 1's shaky beginnings, its inventor would become one of the most important names in British aviation history.
Yes, it wasn't a successful plane initially, but Avro went on to build many, many planes, including the Lancaster.
Here's the bomb diver's eye view as he hurtles down to a target.
Rowe's company, Avro Aircraft, was absorbed into Hawker Siddeley Aviation in 1962, which eventually was nationalised as part of British Aerospace in 1994. So without this incredible plane and the amazing Sir Rowe who built it, many of the world's most iconic flying machines may well have never existed.
So this is quite delicate. This is the forward wing of the aircraft. As you can see, it's made up of really lightweight linen with these little thin metal stringers here, ribs that support the fabric. And it's just all held up by this one strut that goes all the way across and basically hangs this wing off the front of the aircraft.
Phil and Andrew have just a day to get this important replica of British aviation history cleaned up and back on display to the public for the first time in nearly 2 years.
Those huge doors open at the end, they'll be able to peer in and see really what Rowe's flight studio was like in those very early days. In a way, it's almost the equivalent for a Briton as the Wright brothers out at Kitty Hawk, really.
There we go.
There we go. Christ, it's not light, is it?
Back at the Jackson shed, Colin and Ian are preparing the 1926 Grand Prix racer, the Halford Special.
Yep.
Ready to be the star of the show, performing racing starts at the museum's British Grand Prix anniversary celebration. But after 2 years of not running, this century-old beast
Sounds great. Hello.
seems to have lost its roar.
It's died.
Between them, Ian and Colin have years of expert engine know-how. And with a deadline looming, they might just need it.
The clutch is very stiff. I mean, I don't remember it as being as stiff as this when I used to drive it.
Colin lubricates the clutch with some oil, whilst Ian tries a bit of brute force on the pedal.
It's ruddy solid, I can't move it. You really need the clutch to get it into gear. And that's the problem we're having at the moment, is actually getting it into gear. When you put the clutch in, pull the handle in, it goes in fairly quietly. But if you have clutch drag, so there's a huge graunching noise when you pull, if you can get it in at all. No, but this is ridiculous. I mean, I could put, oh wait, I got it down. That's pretty impressive. I've got the clutch hard down now. From the moment we heard about this car, we were immediately very excited. But unfortunately, the engine was very badly damaged after it had been used in a speedboat in a lane and a lake for 2 years. The most exciting part, in a way, was finding the original chassis. This was owned by Nick Mason, the drummer of Pink Floyd at the time, and he kindly agreed to swap it with another chassis because it's a very, very unusual car.
The Halford Special was built by aircraft engine designer Frank Halford. And as in aircraft at the time, he improved the car's performance by doubling the normal number of magnetos and spark plugs. He also fitted a turbocharger, making it the world's first turbocharged car and way ahead of its time.
And I raced it for about 15 years. It's a wonderful car, it's very quick. They're very slidey, the cars of this period, because the suspensions are not as advanced as they are today. And the brakes clearly are not as good as they are today. So it gives an exciting experience, is the way I think I'd put it.
In the first British Grand Prix held at Brooklands in 1926, the Halford Special was running in 4th position as far as the 83rd lap, when it suffered a severed crankshaft. Colin and Ian are hoping it'll do better this time.
That's a bloody awful pump. Yes, it is. Fuel pumps were very unreliable. They used electric fuel pumps which didn't work at all well, and even the mechanical ones didn't. So what people did was actually pressurise the fuel in the tank, and you just pump it to get the pressure up in the fuel tank, which pushes the fuel into the engine. And that's what we're doing at the moment, sorting that out. Colin's just oiled it, and it is now, God willing, bloody useless pump. Drive me bonkers.
But despite Colin's furious efforts, nothing seems to be getting through to the engine itself.
You're not getting any fuel?
No, not yet.
I'm surprised. Usually it's flooding out all over the place.
Got to take the fuel line off. So, fuel's on, fuel's on, fuel's on. Tracing the fuel line to make sure we can get fuel. No, there isn't much there either.
They've tried everything they can think of.
A bit weird, isn't it?
Before a penny drops for Colin.
You got another pump? Oh, that's what it is. What? That's the problem.
There's a hidden valve that I forgot about.
When the Halford Special was built, there was no uniform way of car manufacturing. Each design was unique and required specific knowledge to run and maintain it, including, it turns out, hidden, easy-to-forget fuel valves.
Reinstate it all.
That's what you call a classic, Colin.
Yes. Not running a car for so long.
Yeah, you forget all the bloody things on it.
With the fuel line opened, there's only one thing left to do. See if they can get the engine started. Again. She's there, just in time. Tomorrow, the Halford is due to reenact the racing start it made on the site's finishing straight 95 years ago, in front of crowds of fans flocking to the anniversary celebrations.
Hello.
Or did I speak too soon?
Hello. Did you have trouble getting into first? No. We could probably push it down there. It's slightly downhill.
Yeah.
Colin and Ian will need to keep trying, or the anniversary celebrations will be missing its star car.
It's usually a bit temperamental and stopping a bit when it's going slowly, but likes to go quickly.
Over by the ERA shed, motorcycle team members Fred and Bill have finished giving the Empire Star, one of the jewels in the museum's motorbike collection, a thorough service.
Much easier further forward.
Just in time for the arrival of its owner, George Wander.
Ah, Fred.
Hi, George.
Hello. How lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you as well.
It's an important day in the bike's history. Due to ill health, George isn't able to ride the bike anymore, and he's decided to extend his loan of it to the museum by giving it to them outright. He hasn't seen the Gold Star in 2 years.
Fred, tell me how the bike's been going for the last couple of years.
It's been going extraordinarily well, actually. We had a few leaks.
It is 90 years old, so we're going to find a few leaks here and there.
You know, there was a bit of play in the headstock, so we did an adjustment on that.
Okay.
For Museum Director Tamerley Newbury, welcoming such an important slice of Brooklands history permanently into the collection is a big deal, especially as she knows how much it means to George.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
We are really delighted that you've chosen for it to come here permanently now. It's such an important part of the Brooklands story.
George spent years of his life building this incredible replica, so to hear it roar into life again after 2 years apart is a special moment.
Absolutely lovely, yeah. I mean, very good. Yeah, I can't hear very much, but yeah, it's great. What a lovely sound, eh?
Yeah, it smells amazing as well, doesn't it?
It's running on castor oil, so it's always got that castor oil smell. It's a very special bike, and to me it means an awful lot.
Yeah, it sounds lovely, it's going well. I mean, he had a good turn of speed going up the hill there.
The fact that the bike is now where it belongs and will, all being well, will stay here for as long as the museum exists.
Does it look at home here at Brooklands?
Oh yeah, it is. This is its home. Yeah, I wouldn't want it to be anywhere else now. I know that it'll be in good hands, and I know it'll carry on being used, and it's available to the public to see the basis on which the whole story developed. Smelling good, sounding good.
Yep.
It looks to be running well, so I'm very pleased.
Were you able to get any speed up at all on that run?
Get it in second gear.
Yeah. We really need a bit more track, don't
Exactly,
we?
yeah.
George doesn't know when he'll make it back to see the Empire Star run again. This amazing machine that inspired the Gold Star brand owes a thank you to its owner.
I think it's about time we get the other bikes in.
So Fred and Tamily have organised a proper welcome parade to show their appreciation.
We have some gold stars coming to keep your Empire Star company, welcoming your bike into the permanent collection.
Wow.
Oh wow, look at that. Look at that.
In honour of such a selfless gesture, the Gold Star community have rallied round to thank George and celebrate the bike that spawned a generation of incredible machines and a cult classic.
That sounds so good.
It's very, very emotional moment.
For George, it's a poignant reminder of his lifelong passion for bikes.
Takes a lot to get me emotional, but that certainly does.
How was that?
Absolutely wonderful. Thanks very much. It's been absolutely great watching all this going on.
Good.
And the bike's going well. It's sounding
brilliant,
lovely.
yeah.
Just had a great time. I'm just so pleased to see the bike looking as well as it is.
Yeah, it
Thank
goes
you for
well.
looking
I mean,
after
it. Still goes very well.
I'm looking forward to it having a long and happy life in the museum.
It will.
Thanks, George. We're very honoured to have it.
Best day for a long, long time.
Good. Very good.
Loved it, loved it.
A major player in the creation of Concorde, and once an important manufacturer of military and civil aircraft, Brooklands aviation history is long and expansive. And it all began with the Row 1 biplane, one of Britain's first attempts at getting airborne. Phil and Andrew have been giving it a thorough but gentle dusting down after nearly 2 years under wraps. Before they open the doors to the public, Andrew can't resist a go in the cockpit, but climbing in took skill in itself.
Oh, it's a bit of a tight fit, but I'm in. There's certainly not a lot of protection around the pilot. It's very open. If you were trying to fly this and theoretically up at sort of 50, 100 feet in the air, then it would be a pretty scary experience.
Not only was sitting in the cockpit more akin to a bicycle than a modern plane, there were no flying manuals. Pilots learned to fly as soon as they took off, if they did.
At this period, they're flying so low and so slowly that many of them escaped from these crashes with minimal injuries. And Tommy Sopwith, who went on to become a much more successful aviator, at the beginning was flying these kind of things. And he said, if you crashed, you just got up and shook the wreckage off and tried again. And that really was the kind of pioneering attitude at the time.
It might be just as well Andrew's only cleaning it and not taking it for a test flight today.
Should we get the doors open then?
Yep, that sounds like a great idea, Andrew.
Been a long day, getting all the dust off of the Avroplane, but it's one of the most important exhibits here, showing Brooklands right at the beginning.
And of course the Row 1 plane does hold a very, very special place for Brooklands. It was the first aircraft that tried to fly.
So it's always a popular exhibit and it's nice to have it back on display again.
All that's needed now are some visitors.
Well, it's very good. It's lovely to see it open and beautifully restored.
I must admit this is the first time I've seen this open and I think it's really good and really amazing.
The fact that people actually flew on things like that, it staggers me.
And with the punters happy, it's job done for Andrew and Phil.
I think we deserve a couple.
I think we do deserve a couple, yeah. Let's go for one.
It's the Grand Prix anniversary. And things aren't going to plan for Engagement and Heritage Director Alex.
It is now 7:30 and the weather gods have decided not to play for us today. I've come over to inspect the bays, make sure that the guttering is doing what it should be doing and protecting the cars. Cars are looking relatively dry, actually. Historic vehicles and wet weather don't mix.
Millions of pounds worth of historic cars are expected on the site to be parked and driven in front of what Alex hopes will be a packed crowd. But that could all be at risk.
There's a fair quantity coming down today. It's going to mean that we're going to be limited on what we can do today, potentially, so we just have to play it by ear.
With the big day on the line, Brooklands events manager Steve Castle has called an urgent staff meeting.
Good morning, everybody. Typically, a big event, we want lots of people here, want it to look nice, and the weather has very much turned against us. Forecast is not looking good for the whole day. In terms of everything we need to be doing, we've also got cars to come out and go on display. Have you got a chamois leather so we can at least dry off the ones that have been pushed through? I haven't received any emails yet telling me that people have dropped out. Let's just wait and see what shows up.
Huge amount of time and effort and planning goes into running these events, so it's always heartbreaking when you get up in the morning to find that it's not the weather that you plan.
With all eyes on the skies, it's now out of their hands.
Then we should have the Halford Special, Bugatti. So, not sure what else we've got coming. So, there's not more we can do about it.
Watching the large volume of water coming down the sky.
After a very wet start, the motoring gods are finally smiling down on the museum for the 95th anniversary of the first British Grand Prix held at Brooklands in 1926. For Engagement and Heritage Director Alex, after the initial delay, it's all systems go before the public are let in.
Well, weather has stopped so far, so we're going to take this opportunity to get as much as we can do out. Hopefully, this is the rest of the day now. We've had our fill of water, and if the only way is up as it is.
And as the rain departs, an impressive collection of historic cars arrive, all with ties to the Grand Prix and to the era that made Brooklands famous. And emerging from under the covers, the mighty but slightly temperamental Halford Special.
One of the stars of the show is about to come out, and so this is the Halford Special. Ran in the 1926 Grand Prix, and hopefully it's going to run in Celebration Day. One step closer to making it happen, which is good. You know, any big large outdoor event, you always face a little bit of concern, especially as the weather starts turning. You know, you don't know if any cars are going to turn up, you don't know if any visitors are going to turn up. Yeah, the tense beginning, I'm not going to lie to anyone. Good, okay.
Alex needn't worry. as the crowds are arriving, and so are some old museum friends. Ivan Dutton, Bugatti aficionado and restorer, has brought several cars with him, including his pride and joy, a 1920s Salmson, just like the one his dad worked on at this very track.
This car is 1922. It's nearly 100 years old, and it lapped here at 114 miles an hour in 1926, which is amazing really when you think about it. 1926 with little skinny tyres like that.
Ivan's father worked on and raced in cars at Brooklands, which sparked a lifelong love of cars in Ivan.
And he was a riding mechanic, so he would ride round in the car here. And that's how I got involved in Bugattis, because my dad worked on Bugattis before the war. Oh look, there's a picture of my dad at Brooklands. I didn't realise we had that. So it was quite good to come here after all these years and think, well, the old man was here as a worker, and we've come with our own cars, which is quite good, really. So it was a wonderful time to be around in them days, you know, with all them fabulous cars. That's good, isn't it? Bit of fun, isn't it? Because next year it will be 100 years old, so I think we ought to have a bit of a party, really.
At 80 years old, Ivan isn't doing too badly himself. Still keen to get behind the wheel, he'll be the main competition up against the Halford later in another very special car. Over on the finishing straight, with the track drying, racing starts have been allowed to commence. They recreate the sights that crowds would have seen back in the day. But the anniversary isn't just celebrating the start of the Grand Prix.
Owners love to bring their cars to Brooklands because of the heritage, because of prestige of what Brooklands was and is today. It represents the byword of British motorsport.
One car that's just arrived and really stands out from the crowd, very different to the Halford but equally as special, is the 1970s Formula One car, the Tyrrell 001, which Adam Tyrrell has brought with him today.
So this is Tyrrell 001, which is the first car that the Tyrrell team ever built themselves. It's owned by the family, which is nice, so it's the same age as me as well. It first raced about 3 weeks before I was born.
Adam's grandfather, Ken Tyrrell, built the Tyrrell 001 for Formula One racing driver and legend Jackie Stewart.
Fairly tight cockpit. I don't actually have a seat in it because I'm too tall for it. It was built for Jackie Stewart, who's a little bit shorter than me. It's a very normal gearbox, but without a synchromesh, which makes it okay to change up gear, but harder to change down. If you've ever driven a go-kart, I guess that's the closest thing to it in terms of the feel of it. The basicness means that it still runs today, over 50 years on. On a relative basis, it's quite easy to bring this car down this morning and be ready to run here, which is great. It means I get to do this.
With the legends of the track going down a storm with the crowds, it's time for the main event. In 1926, Frank Halford in his Special was one of 8 cars taking part in the first ever British Grand Prix. And one of his main rivals was the one and only land speed record holder Sir Malcolm Campbell driving a Bugatti. Today, in the Halford Special, it's Colin. Up against the Halford once again is a Bugatti driven by none other than Ivan. And the prospect of going head-to-head against the mighty Halford doesn't seem to be rattling him.
I raced a red Bugatti and I won everything in it, and they threw me out in the end because it was too quick.
So a rerun of 95 years ago, got a Halford Special and the Bugatti going against each other now. You know, is the Halford actually going to finish this time, unlike, 95 years ago where it almost got to the end and then it broke down.
The Halford Special, after needing a bit of help, cast off its spluttering start from yesterday and is in fighting form.
the sounds, the smell, the activity. It's wonderful. This is what Brooklands was, and this is what Brooklands really is about as well. It's fantastic.
Engines revved, they're off.
Drivers were really taking their lives in their own hands. There wasn't mandatory safety equipment that we have today. Harnesses were non-existent. There was no protection for the head. Anything could go wrong at any time.
Just like back in 1926, the Bugatti pips the Halford to the post.
It's worked beautifully. I can't believe how quick it is. And I got a bottle of champagne. Yeah. And I'm a hero.
But at least the Halford crossed the finishing line this time.
Very well, yes, as expected, really. We've got to be careful at the back end, especially on the damp parts today, so well, it's great.
For the watching crowd, it's been an extraordinary spectacle.
It's lovely to see the old cars and to hear the sound of them. And it's nice to be actually on the actual site where the racing started. It's fantastic.
Amazing. The smell, the atmosphere, just built up the atmosphere.
Like the classic car, the Bugatti, the engine sound.
I thought it was very nice. It was lovely. Nice atmosphere.
Having all the pre-war cars and bikes and people dressing up, I think that's what's marvellous about the place. There's the buildings give you the atmosphere, but the people make it come to life.
And for Alex, it's been a triumph.
End of the day, what a fantastic day, actually. Considering when we started out from at the beginning, you couldn't have asked for anything better, really.